I'm here to talk about silly goals. Now, when I was a kid, a goal was really exciting. It was something that I celebrated. It was a fun thing. It was a goal. But somewhere along the line, maybe around junior high school or high school, it became a goal. It was something that was a responsibility, something that I had to do, and it lost that feeling. Maybe because of this. A lot of the teachers, they made me think that I had to set goals in order to be successful. It was something that you needed to do. They even wrote it on the chalkboard. And, well, anything on a chalkboard really isn't that cool. You can look at the steps here. Teachers made me think that achieving a goal was as easy as this. Following these steps, you'll be able to be successful. Looks easy, right? But the reality is that achieving a goal is more like an obstacle course. There's lots of pitfalls, places where you can make mistakes. They don't really teach this to you. So as a kid, I was frustrated. In fact, a lot of adults feel the same way. So I came up with something called the silly goals. Now anybody can do this. You could take goals that are really serious, and you just add a little bit of silliness into it. Makes it kind of fun. Just don't tell your boss about it. Now, silly goals, let me give you an example. I loved canned coffee. There was a canned coffee, this one. Kilimanjaro canned coffee. I used to drink it all the time. I like the colors. I like the smell. I like the taste. I like the way you open the can and you hear that little click. So I got really familiar with this can of coffee. In fact, you could say this can of coffee was like family to me, like my best friend. We spent all this time together. So why not go and see where the canned coffee was from? Go to its hometown, Kilimanjaro. So I set the goal to go and with this can of coffee to its hometown, Kilimanjaro. Now, like my teachers told me, I decided to go out and set the goal and make a plan and everything like that. So here we started in Japan, and how far is Kilimanjaro? Well, it's right there. It's on the other side of the world. So I mapped out everywhere where I want to go, made a plan, and then started the trip, which was in Beijing. From here, I took the Trans-Mongolian Railroad all the way to Moscow. It's pretty far. We spent a lot of time on the train eating instant ramen, a lot of Chinese tea, and 1 week of no showers. You get to know how everybody smells on a train trip like this. The whole time, that can of coffee was in my backpack. It was with me. I met a lot of fantastic people on the train. There's nowhere to escape, so you get to know everybody really fast. We stopped in Mongolia, and I got a chance to drink fermented horse milk. Now, this is a kind of an acquired taste. However, it is 1% alcohol, so if you drink a lot of it, right? Yeah. Well, the trip to Moscow was very, very scenic, and I'd seen a lot of things that I'd never seen before. Eventually, I got to Moscow. But to make a long story short, I got to Europe. I saw a lot of incredible things, met some great people, ate some fantastic food. It was an experience that'll last a lifetime. From Europe, I went on to Africa, where I went on a 3-week safari around Botswana, Zambia, Zimbabwe, South Africa. Met a lot of fantastic people. Heard stories from people that I'd never met who had a perspective that was totally different from what I had known about Africa. It's great. I even jumped off a cliff at Victoria Falls, free falling for 100 meters. It'll wake you up. I also saw a lot of fantastic animals, wildlife, things that you would see on a safari. After 3 months of traveling, I eventually got to the hometown of my favorite coffee, Kilimanjaro Mocha 50/50, Georgia, made by Coca-Cola. It was great. Having this goal made me feel like I'd really accomplished something. Not just going on vacation to Kilimanjaro, but traveling all the way around the world with my buddy, the can of coffee. It was fantastic, but that wasn't my whole goal. I wanted to go to the top of Kilimanjaro, to the very, very top, and this takes a lot of effort. In fact, it takes 5 days to get to the top, going through different elevations. And the great thing is that along the way, it's just like the train. You get to know everybody on the course because no one can escape from you. So everybody knew my story. This guy has a can of coffee. At first, it was really silly, but when they start to think about it, it had more of a reason, more than just going to Kilimanjaro. It was a real goal. Eventually got to the summit. Well, this is pretty close to it. This is about 5,500 meters up. And if you ever climbed Mount Fuji or you've been mountain climbing, you know that the oxygen is a little bit thin. So everybody has this euphoria from lack of air. They're feeling a little bit drunk. So at the summit, this is when I got out my can of coffee, like this one here. And it was time to finally achieve my goal. I'd come all this way, tens of thousands of miles. And here I am, there's a sign in front of Kilimanjaro that says, you're on the roof of Africa, you've reached the highest point. This is great. There were about a dozen people around me, all of them knowing my story. All of them had camera, like paparazzi, like this was a big deal. And I had the can of coffee, and here I am at the summit. You can see the can of coffee in my hand. This is the goal. So I got the can, and this is it, right? This is the moment. I held it up into the sky and said, welcome home, you're home. I did it. I opened the can of coffee, and I've been waiting 3 months to drink this coffee. It's been sitting in my backpack. Popped it open, got that beautiful sound like it did 3 months ago. Went back for a big drag on the coffee, and nothing came out. I shook it 100 times. Nothing came out. I bet you know why. Because, maybe not. At about 5,000 meters, it's below the freezing point. So the can of coffee that I'd been waiting for 3 months to drink was frozen, solid. What are you supposed to do? So, because we're lacking oxygen, we're not thinking straight. So there's, half a dozen people in front of me, and then one guy comes up with the idea, hey, let's put it between our legs, and we'll all drink it. Yeah, great. So the people around me, everybody put the can of coffee between their legs, melted it just enough to get a few drops. And after, you're only supposed to stay at the summit for about 10, 15 minutes and go down. We must have been there for like 30, 40 minutes, getting a little bit of drop. And by the time the can came back around to me, there wasn't much left. In fact, it was mostly backwash. But whatever it was that I drank, it took me back to that point when I was back in Japan, setting up this goal, thinking about the trip, almost a full circle, all the fantastic people that I met along the way, the beautiful sights that I saw, the experiences that'll last a lifetime, all because of a silly goal to drink a can of coffee at the top of Kilimanjaro. You can see, here's the can. It's a true story. So what I want you to leave you with is this. It's not achieving the goal, but what you learn on the way to that goal that is most important. We put a lot of emphasis on winning the gold medal, on being at the top. But getting to that point takes a lot of effort, and that really is what you're going to remember the most. So if you have to set a goal, make them silly, and you'll have a lot more fun. Thank you very much.